Mr. Makhubalo, thank you so much for joining us. Before we talk about what you're going to do, this is your 12th clean audit, unqualified audit.
Yes, it is.
You stand out from your other, you know, the other seaters who've always been characterized by poor management. What do you attest your success to? Do you have proper systems in place? Have you hired the right people?
We've been very fortunate in many respects. One, we have very good people working for us, but we've also been very fortunate in terms of our governance. The banks and the unions that represent people inside banks have seconded some of their most senior people to serve in our governance and committee structures. So we get fairly good advice, and we've also got the best advice in terms of the things that we are unable to do ourselves. We've outsourced, and that model has worked very well for us.
Mm-hmm. Now, of course, you are targeting fast-tracking black women, and I mean the reasons are obviously you know, very clear. Take us through what the current position of black women is. Black women are in the banking sector, and why are we still lagging so far behind? It's all women. And black women in particular.
And black women in particular. South Africa is a unique case study. After 1994, a decision was taken to make transformation the centerpiece of all business transformation. And part of that was to accelerate the skills level and skills acquisition. And the Setas were thus created. We have a fairly ambitious program of training people in scarce and critical skills inside the broader banking and microfinance industry. And the case of women is that females in general, in South Africa in particular, are doubly disadvantaged. First for being black, and the second for being female. Because they actually have to do two roles, that of being a mother, a wife, and those kind of things, and also to compete on equal levels with their male counterparts. They also have to take a lot of time on child rearing and child bearing. That puts them back a number of times. Also, there are cultural stereotypes in terms of, can you have this team be managed by a female, and those kind of things. So we actually, as a society and as a sector, are getting past that and modernizing, getting into the 20th and 21st century in terms of those cultural stereotypes.
Mm-hmm. Now, of course, many women who are in leadership positions, when they assume those positions, many feel that they have no option but to ape male behavior. Mm-hmm. What a lot of business executives are saying, that intuition, that particular femaleness that you can bring to leadership is taken out because you expect it to behave like a man to be able to make it in a man's world. How does the training of Bank Seta ensure that women don't have to behave like men in order to be successful?
It's a fact. In most organizations, the way to succeed in terms of the culture of the organization is more than the ability to do the job and the way of doing things around here. So females and that applies also to black males. When they get into senior positions, the temptation and the pressure to act like their other counterparts is very strong, because that's all we know. Mm-hmm. But the reality is that we're actually sub-optimizing the real benefits of diversity, because everybody, and I believe that was black people, females bring a lot of things in management and also in our strategic thinking that we do not have now. Mm-hmm. And if we allow them to continue to be what they possibly can be, we can actually get better results than we are getting now.
Now, of course, a lot of management coaches are bringing in quite a lot of innovations in training so that we can keep up with the, you know, constantly changing global environment in which executives have to operate. What are the peculiar challenges in the South African banking system that you take into account in terms of training, you know, people that need to be fast-tracked?
What we've discovered is that banks in particular internationally have to compete on two levels: and cost-to-income ratio and the ability pricing that they price their individual products. And that has become something we all know. And one thing that if you cannot, but technology everybody can buy, but the real competitive edge is the people. Mm-hmm. So if we actually can crack that in terms of attracting and retaining high caliber people and finding ways of developing to the best of that they can be, you actually can find something that uniquely represents that bank. And let's go back to females. The majority of the people in this country and in the world are females. So by extension, over a period of time, the majority of new accounts and new businesses, and especially SMMEs, are run by, and the customers are females. If in our management planning and thinking about products and advertising campaigns and review, we actually understand how that psyche works. It actually makes better our ability to understand that market, tap into it, own it, and really make it at our own.
Now, of course, earlier you spoke about the fact that you've got good systems and you outsource functions that you yourself don't have. Give us an example of what capacities you don't possess as Bank Seta and where you go for outsourcing those skills.
Our IT is outsourced. It really is not our competitive edge. We've outsourced that and we buy that in from somebody else to whom it's their full-time job. Finance, the same story, running our financial books, the data books and those kind of things. Really is not our business. There are certain things that in terms of reporting that we still retain in our corporate services environment. But beyond that, we actually do not need to keep all those things because there is no, because of our size and our unique specialization, top-end finance person would not have a long-term career in our environment.
Now, one of the big problems that a lot of industries have, is particularly with black professionals, is retention strategies to retain skills. You find that people job hop quite a bit because there are very few skilled people, and of course they can move around. Many black professionals, however, also feel that business cultures don't make them feel comfortable, and it's one of the reasons why they kind of jump ship all the time. How do you factor this in terms of retaining particularly scarce skills?
Well, it's become also a hallmark of this industry. There's a lot of people moving between banks and among banks, and we understand that. And we actually, in terms of the world we live in, we actually want to get the best out of a person in a shorter period of time, like advertising have managed to do, because the burnout and interest in people's jobs, because some of these jobs are very intense in terms of quality of life and work balance issues. So in some cases, we actually have to accept that the way we understood and theorized and understood work is different now in this century than it was in the past.
Mr. Makhubalo, thank you so much for your time. That's where we have to leave it. That was Max Makhubalo. He's the CEO of Bank Seta, discussing the ways in which to develop world-class talent for South African banking.